So, when I ask, what is Odoo? What comes to mind? Well, Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a suite of business management software that some people say is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. But some people also say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. But then again, you could look at Odoo in terms of how its individual software programs are a lot like building blocks. I mean, whatever your business needs, manufacturing, accounting, HR programs, you can build a custom software suite that's perfect for your company. So what is Odoo? Well, I guess Odoo is a bit of everything. Odoo is a fertilizer, magic beanstalk building blocks for business. Yeah, that's it. Which means that Odoo is exactly what every business needs. Learn more and sign up now at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.
Sit back and relax and get ready for another exclusive episode of the Online Marketing Secrets Podcast with Lopez.
This episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible has a free 30-day trial. All you have to do is go to audible.com/sharp game. And the best part about Audible is that they have hundreds and thousands of Audible books you can listen to as much as you want. There's no obligation. You can cancel at any time. All you have to do is go to audible.com/sharp game or just click the link in the show notes. So again, Audible is giving a free 30-day trial. All you have to do is go to audible.com/sharp game and you can start listening to your free Audible books immediately. So don't wait. Go to audible.com/sharp game and start listening immediately. Back at you with another episode coming at you from King of CashflowWebsites.com. My name is Lopez. Share this episode. And today I just finished doing an interview with Joe Balestrino. He's a digital marketing expert. He wrote a couple of books. He's been featured on NBC, CNBC NPR. He worked with big brands such as Muscle, Fitness, Adweek, Barton Bands, Reader Digest. Hopefully you like this interview. It was a great interview. Hopefully you like it. Tell me what you think about it. Send me your emails and concerns or anything you would like for me to talk about. So enjoy. See you on the other side.
I'm 50, so I've been, I started out right out of the gate running an agency, like a small shop, couple of people. Back in 2004, and then 2008 I sold my business. And then where are you from?
I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yeah, I need to go down to North Carolina. My father-in-law's got a place down there.
Yeah, it's a good market.
Yeah,
it's hot here.
It's I need to get down there. I've never been, so it's a place I want to visit. So yeah, I started an agency. I've worked for companies. I've consulted for companies like Muscle and Fitness and Adweek, a Reader's Digest. And then I think it's about 7 years now. I've been kind of doing my own thing, doing consulting, things like that. I've written a couple of books. I've kind of done a little bit of everything over the years. But I like sharing information because I find that when I share information, I give people information and tips, and if they're good enough to be clients, as far as they understand kind of how everything works, how SEO works, how Google Ads works, and they're a sizable client and they can work with me, great. But if they're smaller and they don't have a budget to hire someone like me, I like to give information and tips that they can kind of do and use on their own. Because when I started out, that's kind of how I built my agency. Was just, I had a podcast way back in 2004, and I had a forum back then. Forums were big. People would come in, ask questions. We'd have the whole community thing going. And that kind of drove a lot of business. Like the first year, I didn't have to, spend any money on advertising because everybody was just coming to me for information. So it was, it was a good place. It was a good place to be, back then. Now everything's a little bit different, and not necessarily in a bad way. It's just now it's it's all about Facebook and Facebook forums and stuff like that, groups, which depending which one you're in, could be full of spam and crap, and some of it is actually pretty useful.
Yeah. So how'd you get started? Did you go to a conference? Because that's what I did. I went to a conference like 15 years ago. It was a marketing conference, and I'd never been online before. And after that conference, I started my first MySpace account.
MySpace.
Yeah, those were the good old days, man. So how'd you get started?
Man, that was like a lifetime ago. So when I was younger, I worked in a factory, and I didn't have a high school education because, long story short, I came from a broken home. I was a runaway, and, I had a job and I was working in a factory. And when I started learning about computers back then, I couldn't afford a computer, and a computer back then was like a half a gig. Mm-hmm. It had no memory. It was a half a gig, and that was a lot back then. I would go to the local library and I would sign up for an hour worth of time. And every time I got on the computer, I was curious, like, what is this internet shit, and how to, I was trying to teach myself how to design websites. So back in the day, there was a website called Homestead, and they would let you, mess around and put things on the website. You put, GIFs on it, and, have a little counter. And every time I go to the library to see how many people visited my webpage, which was nobody, and then eventually I saved up and I bought a used computer online. And back then we had, Kazaa, and I downloaded software, Adobe Go Live. And I taught myself how to use Adobe Go Live, and I started building websites. So the first website I built was JMB Design, which is my initials, and just design. And at the time, this was like, 2000 and something, 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. And I built a website to get web design business. And at the time I was ranking for affordable web design. I didn't know how I did it, but that's how people were finding me. And they were asking me, how did you rank for this keyword? And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't know what SEO was. Yeah. So then, I learned about SEO. And then once I found out what it was, I was like, oh, this is amazing, because, it's one thing to build a website. And it's still true today. A lot of people just think about, oh, let me just build a website and then I'll worry about all the other stuff later. And when you build a website, if you don't build it properly, nobody's going to find it. And then if you build it and then you hire somebody like me to come in and like optimize it, if you don't have the right pages, like back in the day, they had Flash. So, Flash was just a big movie. And so if you didn't slice up the HTML text, then Google wouldn't know what was it about, what the web page is about. And then people would reach out and say, hey, can you optimize this Flash? I had to spend 10 grand on it. And I'm like, you can't do anything. You got to slice up the HTML content because Google can't read the movie. You got to do you got to have the content in HTML. And then people will get frustrated because now they got to go back to the designer, pay him more money or her more money to redesign something that wasn't designed right in the first place. And so anyway, long story short, so then I started learning more about SEO. And then when I started my agency, I called it Mr. SEO. And then I just, was sharing everything that I learned that worked and things that I tried, I would share it with everyone, and that's how I started getting clients.
Man, how did you have the confidence to even know that, hey man, I can start an agency, man. I can work with these big brands, corporate. How did you even? Because I went down that road, and people warned me ahead of time. They said, you're going to get tired of that, man. So how did you know you could do it?
I didn't know I could do it, and that wasn't the plan, right? The plan was at the time. So after I did SEO for a little while, and I started, before I even started my business, I put a resume on Craigslist, and a guy that was from Brooklyn had a company in California, and he reached out to me and he said, hey, he's like, I need somebody to do SEO. And I had my resume up, and it was just based on what I had done with my web design clients, which was only, maybe 5 or 6 of them. I didn't have a lot. And so he was like, I'll pay you $2,000 a month. Now this is 2002, 2003. That's how much I was making at the job that I had. Oh. And so at the time and my job had benefits, and so I had to, weigh the pros and cons of, do I take this chance? I don't have to commute, because I was commuting to the city because I was working, doing, some kind of woodworking stuff. And so I was like, okay, well, do I take the chance and work for this guy? Because he's in California. So that means I don't have to start working until 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I can go to the gym. I have my mornings to myself. I got to be at the computer till 8 o'clock at night, but I don't have to commute. I don't have to do all these things. So I took the chance on it, and I wound up being with them for like 2 years. And in that time, I started my website on the side. So in the morning, since I had time, I started building Mr. SEO, and I started writing articles and putting stuff up there. Not with any real goal, just to kind of have it out there, so that at some point my plan was like, maybe I can do something with this later on. But back then it was easier to rank in Google. We learned back then early on that you could spam text in the bottom of the footer, hide text, do spam comments and stuff like that. And it worked. And people, like I said, a lot of times I would share content. So on my podcast, it would just be me and my business partner, and we would just talk shop about SEO, what we were doing, what we were seeing, what wasn't working. And then people would try it. And then when it worked, they would say, hey, the advice you gave worked for me. Obviously, you know what you're talking about. We want to hire you. And then I was like, oh, okay, well, then that's great. Then I started, a side hustle, doing that on the side while working. And then it kind of it was me and my business partner doing it, but it was a lot. And then the competition started to grow, started getting burnt out. And then, I was like, let's see if we can sell this company. And, we were able to sell it for, I guess what was considered decent back then, and just sold it. And then I couldn't compete in the space anymore. So then I had to go get a job. And so then I started getting a corporate job, and not really having any professional background in the industry outside of experience. That's when, I was worried about, can I get a job? Because I don't have a bachelor's degree in this. You couldn't learn this. You weren't learning this in school. And so I went to go apply for a job at MTV, VH1, like Viacom. And I made it all the way up to meet the VP. And I was sitting in her beautiful office, corner office in the city. And I was like, I'm gonna nail this job. I'm gonna get this job. And I didn't get it because they said that, they didn't think that I would be able to work for a company after working for myself, Yeah. And to me, it didn't make any sense. I said, if I have 12 clients, I have 12 bosses. That should make me like more desirable than, just somebody who's just gonna, work, and they didn't get it. And so I wound up getting a job at a company called Jimmy Jazz, which was an upstart, e-commerce upstart in Brooklyn. And I helped build the website with them and did the SEO and the paid search. And then, I worked there for a couple of years before moving on to, another company. But it was, I didn't have any plans to do an agency. It was just, I liked doing what I was doing. It was exciting. It was like, SEO and paid search is like, it's like the closest thing to being a detective, because when shit don't go right, you got to now figure out like why is this not working, or what's the problem here, and how do I solve that? And then, when you find the problem or you solve the problem and you get great results, I'm addicted to writing a case study about it, because it's proof to me too. Like there's times when I feel like, do I know what I'm doing? Am I doing this right? Or doubt myself. The case studies kind of go back and kind of like reassure me, like, you've done this before, because everybody has that, that phase they go through where they're not really sure of their capabilities, because, in the moment they're stuck somewhere and not sure if they're going to get out.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, they didn't even call it SEO. You remember that?
I didn't know what it was.
People didn't talk. I started hearing about this. I started hearing the SEO phrase thrown around like 2014. That's when I started hearing that, and I was like, "Oh, that's just keywords. Oh, okay, whatever." But how many employees did you have when you?
I didn't have many. Everything was outsourced. So it was just me. It was me, my business partner, my ex-wife at the time, who was handling like all the communication. She was the assistant, and then we outsourced whatever we could on things that we couldn't handle in-house, like content writing and stuff like that. My business partner could write, but one person writing content, we had a client that sold telephones, and like trying to write 50 pages on the different types of telephone companies that there were, like, makes and models, was daunting. So it was easier to kind of outsource that stuff. And it was, we had, I had clients like Reader's Digest or Ziff Davis, and it was a lot of, or Institutional Investor. So like all those big publishers, they wanted to get into, Google News, or, even now, I just signed the company that has, I think, Bill Parcells as one of their writers, and it's about football, obviously. And it's, they don't know how to write, like, they don't know how to write for SEO. They write witty, headlines like, 5 quarterbacks that are going to make it to the Super Bowl next year, or some ridiculous stuff, but like nobody's searching that. So, it's it wasn't a big company. I wasn't making, millions of dollars or even $1 million, but it was something I enjoyed that I was able to do from home. Like when I was a kid, in the 70s, I always saw myself as a business person. I always wanted to like run my own thing. I didn't know what it was, because back then, we didn't have computers, so I didn't know what it was. So being able to like do my own thing, create my own hours, even now, like I've been doing this 20 years almost. Like I'll be driving in my car in the middle of the afternoon, and I think to myself like, wow, a lot of people are at work right now, and I'm going out to lunch, or I'm running to the store, or I'm going to go get a massage because, I pulled a muscle in my back. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that, where I remember I worked in a factory for 13 years, and I would stand in the same spot on one machine for 8 hours a day, and my feet would hurt so bad. And I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I would have to walk. If I didn't Friday was payday. If it was Thursday or Friday morning and I didn't have, enough money to get on the subway, I'd have to walk 30 blocks to work, and my feet would already hurt before the day started. So it was not fun, but like I tried a lot of different things. Like I tried MLM. I would, do Watkins, and I would print out flyers and go to my local, Toys R Us area and put flyers on people's cars and drop brochures off at, nail salons, trying to get business, and I failed at that miserably. But I just kept trying. Like I was always trying to find like what I would be good at,
Yeah, that's what led me to come online when I got involved in the MLM.
Oh, you did MLM? Were you good at it? Were you successful?
Yeah. When I came online, that's when I started having success. But when when they tell you to put the bumper stickers, the flyers on the car, that stuff didn't work. No.
I found that out. That's why I didn't do it anymore.
I'll tell you what did work. When I placed ads in magazines and newspapers, when I got people to call me on the phone, and I came online and I just placed ads, because back then they had like these secondary websites that you would pay them and they would place your ads on multiple sites.
Yep, I remember those.
Yeah, that worked, you know. And then once they would call me, well, I didn't answer the phone. I had somebody else to answer the phone. They would call the number, and the person that would answer the phone would get their name and home address and send them a newsletter or a sales letter, and they would buy. That worked, you know.
I couldn't get any of that to work. I was printing flyers. I was like with the MLM that I did, they would like have these monthly catalogs, and I would buy catalogs and I'd put my little sticker on the back, and I'd go to hair salons and nail salons and drop these books off. I didn't make one freaking sale.
I didn't use any of their stuff. I created my own. I didn't use any of that stuff because these companies, unfortunately, they set you up to fail. You know. Yeah. So what do you specialize in? Is it Google, or is it Bing, or is it like lead generation? What do you specialize in to this day?
I mean, I'm at the core, I'm a marketer, right? So my experience is I would like to think well-rounded. My core focus is usually paid ads, web design, SEO. To me, all those things work together. Social media, can I do it? Kind of, but I usually outsource that to somebody who's better at it than I am, because like Facebook stuff, I'm not really good at. But like when it comes to landing pages and like right now I'm working on writing another book, and the previous book I wrote was just about e-commerce marketing. Like the problem with e-commerce is, and I get hit up all the time, and it's always the same thing. Somebody wants to start a jewelry website, and they say, "Hey Joe, can you optimize my Shopify store? Because I rank on the first page of Google for like Shopify SEO expert or SEO Shopify, something like that." And it's always somebody who wants to start a jewelry site, and it drives me crazy because I wish I could just tell them before they get started, don't do jewelry, because everybody thinks like, oh, there's money in jewelry because it's expensive, but there's so much competition. You're never going to rank for diamond earrings. You're never going to rank for.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Are you tired of struggling online, not getting the results you want? Maybe you just need some help. If that's the case, go to kingofcashflowwebsites.com/secrets. And the best part about it, you can learn from the best of the best. You can learn from some of the best marketers in the world. Plus, it's absolutely free. It's absolutely free. So don't wait on this. Go to kingofcashflowwebsites.com/secrets. Back to our red schedule program.
Diamond bracelets, and I've worked for companies like Shop DI, which is Diamonds International. You don't make money on jewelry, really. Like it's you don't make money on it. So to me, it's like I wish people would just do some research to find a more niche kind of thing. Like I had a boss once who sold ballet slippers, and he made a killing. He sold his business and he made a killing because he niched down and he was really specific. He wasn't trying to go broad, and everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to go broad. I'm going to sell furniture. That's the other one. Let me sell furniture. It's like everybody's selling furniture. You're never going to rank for leather sofa. So it's and you're not going to, you don't have the budget to advertise against those big players. So to me, it's just like, I hate crushing people's dreams because I've been there, but it's just like you got to plan it out. Don't build a website and then decide what you're going to do to it, how you're going to market it. Put it all together, because if you just build a website and you put all your time into the website to realize that it's not the right niche, or you don't have the money, or you don't have the right site structure or the right plan, then you've wasted all that time and money to go nowhere, Yeah,
a lot of people, they start with the site first, but they should start with the site last. It's like my sister called me a couple weeks ago, and she bought these plus size white dresses from China. I'm talking, she bought like hundreds of them.
Wow.
And I said, hey, how do you know people are buying this thing? These,
Right.
She's like, I don't know. I just assumed it was online. I don't even know if they buy it online.
Right. Exactly.
And then, I just Google plus size white dresses. Ain't nobody buying that stuff.
And it's hard. Everybody wants a side hustle. Everybody wants to make money. And that's a great thing about the internet. Like, I have kids, and it annoys the shit out of me when they just sit there and they scroll, or they're on YouTube watching nonsense. And I try to tell them, like, I make my living. Everything I've learned, I've taught myself, and I make a living from it. It's like there's so much opportunity out there, but it's kind of like just, it's just being, to me, I know that kids, and I don't, I'm thinking if I was a kid and I had this technology, I'd be a billionaire, because I would have figured this shit out a long time ago and I would have been on the right track. But, it's not the case.
Yeah. So what was your strategy writing your books? Did you want to just get the word out, or what was your strategy when it came to your books?
Dude, I got a really good story. A couple of years ago, I was watching this guy on YouTube. His name is Dan Locke, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he said something to me that stuck with me so hardcore. He said, when you give people a business card, they throw it away. But if you give them a book, they'll put it on their desk, they'll put it on their shelf, and, it'll be there for a long time, maybe forever, right? And so I thought, like, man, I should write a book. And I had a blog, and I wrote a lot about e-commerce. So I looked at all the articles I had, and I said, I could, I'd have to write some, additional content, but I can make a small book out of this. And so what I did was I structured the articles I had, filled in whatever was missing. And then I decided, okay, I went to Upwork. I had it, proofread. I had it designed. I had the cover picked out. And I did all of that, not even to sell any copies. I did it because there was about a dozen or so people that I had spoken to in the past that were potential customers that I wanted, that, like, the conversation just went dead. They were like, oh, I'm interested. You work together. But, like, nothing ever happened. They always drop off. And so I was like, okay, so I'm going to create this book. I bought a bunch of envelopes. It was around Christmas time. And I put them in these Christmas envelopes, and I sealed them up with a little note. And I sent it out to about 12, 15 people. Some people never even, said anything that they got it. They didn't say thanks or whatever. But one guy, when he got it, he emailed me and he says, Joe, I got your book. It was great. Let's have a call next week. Schedule a call. And it was a guy who works for a SaaS company. And he said, let's talk about what you could do for our company. It was for SEO and stuff. And they signed me on for a year. And I made about $58,000 from that one client over that course of that time. And to me, it was worth every, writing the book, as much as I hated it. The fun part was obviously designing it and putting it all together. But, like, just for the fact of, that book getting that result, I don't care. I have copies of the book in my car. I have them, I take them with me if I go to the city in my bag, just so that I can hand them out to people. And it's always good when you talk to clients, even if I didn't sell, like let's say that I didn't even land this client and I didn't make any money from it. Still having a book, something tangible, it gives you credibility. You're now seen as an author. My email signature says, marketer, coach, and author. Like that adds weight. And anybody can be an author nowadays, because you don't need to be signed by a big publisher. You can self-publish. It's still impressive to most people that you've written a book, and it adds, credibility to who you are as a person, in your field.
Yeah. I didn't even know you could self-publish until about 2014. It was a girl that used to come over, and she said, and I used to write a lot. I used to blog a lot, right? And I had this Word document on my computer, and she used to come over and read it. And one day she said, "Hey, you need to self-publish this." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even know you could do that."
Right.
So I looked it up, and sure enough, that's what I used CreateSpace. Before they got bought out by, I don't know, some company. So yeah, I didn't know you could do that. But what do you think about the landscape of advertising today? Because there's a lot of bots. You can place ads on anywhere now, and there's a lot of bots. You don't know what's real. What do you think about? Because things are different today. Back in the day, things were much easier. You would place an ad online, and you would know 9 times out of 10 it's a real person. But today, you just have to test it out. It might be a real person. It might be a bot. You just don't know. So what do you think about the whole entire advertising landscape when it comes to being online today?
I think it's tricky if you're a business owner. Like when I work in Google Ads specifically, I think with advertising, it's intimidating. And, people want to test the waters with like $20 or, $15 here, and in reality, you got to spend money to find out what works. There's a lot of times I've worked with clients who they say, "Oh, I've tried Google Ads before. It doesn't work for me." And I look at their budget and I'm like, "You're spending $10 a day. It's costing you $4 a click. You're not reaching anybody." So you have to be prepared to test, as much as you can, no matter what it is, no matter what you want to try. If you want to try banner ads on a website, you want to try, Facebook ads or Instagram ads or, TikTok. I tell everybody, test everything, because I can't tell you, I've been doing this almost 20 years, and it's always the customer that is doing good in one channel. Like if you're doing really well organically, that's great. But if it was me, I would be nervous, because whether it's Facebook ads, Google, whatever it is, as soon as they change an algorithm or an update, or you violate something, maybe you changed your website and now it doesn't comply and things dry up, then you're in a panic state. Now you're trying to react to something, and then you're gonna rush something, and it's not gonna do well for you because you're trying to frantically get back to where you were, where you're not. If you were doing SEO, if you did SEO and you got hit by an update, and now your rankings tanked, maybe you can get it recovered in a short amount of time, but if you can't, where's the rest of the leads coming from? And so to me, it's like, you don't want. I had one guy come to me one time, and he was like, "Oh, I'm getting all my leads from Yelp, and I got suspended from Yelp. Now I'm not getting any business. I don't know what to do." And it's like, when you're doing well, that's when you want to start testing other things, because now you have the money to go do that, right? Now you have money to go test Facebook ads or test Bing ads or do some kind of other marketing. So to me, it's like, don't stay with what you're comfortable, because there's new and better ways. You can go try cold emailing, or cold calling, or, Google has so many different types of ads. Maybe keyword ads are not working for you. You can do call only ads, or you can do discovery ads, or you can do remarketing ads. Like there's so many other things that you can do. And I feel like, people are just, not willing to test. I'm not saying, go take out a loan, on your house and go throw $10,000 in ads in 1 month. But don't kind of be intimidated or be restrictive in what you do, because you're not going to grow. You're only going to grow so much in one channel unless you branch out and try other things.
Yeah. So today, do you think it's important to build a brand versus how it used to be back in the day? Because the reason why I asked this, because back in the day, I remember when I first came online, I remember I was meeting guys and they were selling anything and people were buying. I'm like, they bought that? And after a couple of years, it started to change. It started to become where if this person was well known, man, people would just buy whatever. It doesn't matter. They could have baby clothes. People would buy. They had what I call the that the Beyonce effect, where it's like it doesn't matter what Beyonce puts out, it's gonna sell out in 24 hours. So that's why I asked that. Do you think building a brand is much more important today?
I think a brand, especially when it comes to Google and SEO, like Google's trying to focus on who's the expert, right? Like years ago, anybody could write something about anything medical, right? And then Google realized like that's not a good idea because, only medical professionals should write about medical content. And so they start looking at who is creating this content, what is their expertise in this area. So if you become an expert in a particular area, your content will rank better. You'll be seen as an expert in that area, especially if you write books, you do videos, you go out on, you do interviews, you write content, you do guest posting. Like if you build your brand, then you have a better chance of being seen as the expert. Because what I think what a lot of people don't understand is you don't want to have to always go out to find business. If you have to go out to get business, then you have a hard sell. Now you have to convince somebody, hey, you should buy from me because of X, Y, and Z. But if you're the expert, people are coming to you. You have to try harder, not as hard, to sell somebody because they found you. And when I started my first agency, the business I got was because people came to me. They found me. I didn't have to sell anyone on anything because they already either, heard my advice or, they got tips from me, or they read something that I did, or they listened to the podcast and they felt like I was credible enough to work with. And so if you position yourself as an expert or your brand, then people will come to you and you're more likely to get business. And there'll be less friction because they're already pre-sold on the fact because they reached out to you and you're not going out to them trying to pull them in and convince them.
Yeah, it's easier to get people to come to you. I learned that it's much better when you position yourself and have people come to you. I learned that in MLM. So if you had to go back, if you were starting over today, what would you do different?
What would I do different? I probably would have tried to, grow my agency a little bit differently than what I had. I mean, I don't think I would change anything with my experience. I think, when I work for companies and I have to interview for, somebody to do like an SEO role, right? To me, it's like, I'd rather hire one guy with less years of experience that worked on more websites than a guy who's worked on one website for 10 years, because the guy who's worked on more websites, even though it's a shorter amount of time, has more experience. He's seen more things. So I don't think I would change anything as far as my experience wise, because I feel like I've been well-rounded for the most part. I'm not as technical as, some other SEOs out there, but some of that stuff I just can't grasp. It's just beyond my enjoyment for work. But as far as my career, I'm happy with it. I don't think there would be much I don't think there'd be much I would change.
Gotcha. So who's your ideal client? Is it big businesses, small businesses, or people just solo by themselves, or what?
It's it's tough. Like mid-sized businesses are usually the best because they don't have super big budgets, because if they have a large budget, then they really want a team and they really need a team, right? If you're too small, then you may not even be able to afford my fee. People come in and say, hey, I'm spending $10 a day on Google Ads. I'm going to tell you my fee is going to be more than what you're spending on Google Ads. So it doesn't work. So it's got to be somewhere in between. And it's usually people who've already, they're already running Google Ads and they have history. Because when somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want to start Google Ads, then we don't have any data. We got to collect data, and that's going to cost you money. And until you spend some money, I don't have any data to tell you, how well performance is going to be or predict anything, because we don't have any data. So if you've already been running SEO for a while, you're only running Google Ads, and you're established, then it's easy for me to come in, because I do audits all the time. I do audits almost every week for companies who, want me to manage their accounts. And it's easier for me to go in and say, okay, I'll do a presentation, say, here's where you're wasting all the money. Here's why this is not working. Here's what I would do to fix it. And here's the cost. That's easier than saying, okay, here you got to come up with X amount of dollars a month to set everything up, to do the keyword research, to build out the campaigns, to do all of this other stuff. And if you're just starting out, that's a lot. So somewhere in the mid-size, and I've worked with publishers, local businesses, contractors, e-commerce websites. So it just all depends on, where the person is in their, business journey. I've worked with solo people who spend $20,000-$30,000 a month. I worked with a guy who selling beauty products, $300,000 a month. So it just depends on where you are and what you're comfortable with. If you're spending, a decent amount of money and you just find, it's too confusing, or the results are not great, and cost per lead is going up and stuff like that, or your SEO traffic is tanked, then, it at least pays to engage with someone like me to kind of at least see where you're at and if you can afford, the service. And a lot of times hiring someone like me alleviates you, the owner, or, your staff who's not experienced, to do other things and leave it to an expert, because a lot of times companies will go with the cheapest solution. They'll go with somebody who's charging $300, $400 a month, in management, to only come back 4 months later and say, I was paying for this company and have poor performance. It's because you're paying so little. And they get as many people as they can get for the lowest price, and they work on volume. A guy like me, I want to have a client for years. I have clients been with me 5-6 years consistently, because the results are good, and they may pay a little bit more, but the results are better. They know that it's being managed by an expert. So it comes down to deciding where you are in your business journey. Is it time for you to hand the reins over to somebody who's more experienced, or if you're not ready to, when you're ready to, when you built up your marketing budget, to look at someone like me.
So if people wanted to work with you, where would they go to?
The best place is my website, joebalestrino.com. Or you can just Google Joe Balestrino, and you'll find my website. You'll probably come across my LinkedIn profile as well. And there I have case studies, all my services. There's coaching there. You can sign up for 1-hour coaching, or just ask me questions. I work a lot with customers who get their Google Ads accounts suspended. I also have some courses available if you wanted to learn how to do click to call campaign. Let's say you're a plumber and you want to just get more calls to your business. You would just sign up for the course, and it would show you how to do it.
There you have it. Share this episode. Tell me what you think. Until next time, we're out. Peace.